This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It's episode 227 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office. Make sure you're following Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me personally at Ant Rivera 86. If you're going to listen to the podcast, that'd be on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please subscribe there. But if you want to be a part of the chat, if you want to be a part of the conversation, you're doing that right here on YouTube. You could also watch it on X as well, but I prefer you to be a part of the chat on the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribing to that. Like the video if you're enjoying the content. This has been a tumultuous 48 hours for the New York Mets, and not good either what has gone down in these last 48 hours. And to do 2 live streams at 11:30 back-to-back nights up until like 3 a.m. trying to get the audio portion out there for you as well. I love doing it. I love talking New York Mets baseball with you guys, and I'm glad to have you a part of it. We have close to 70 people in the room right now. Carlos Ramos, shout out to you, my friend. C Money in the house. Eddie Presti as well. Matt Ibi Ibanez, make sure you check out Till Mets Do Us Part. They did their live stream earlier, and I'm pretty sure they covered all of what has gone down these last 48 hours. Matt Talks Rangers also in the house. Appreciate you. E-Thank as well, and Lordy in the chat. Guys, like I said, it's been a tumultuous 48 hours for the New York Mets. First, Edwin Diaz signs with the Los Angeles Dodgers on a 3-year, $69 million deal. And today, Pete Alonso signs with the Baltimore Orioles. His tenure as a New York Met is over. 5 years, $155 million deal. He got the years, probably wanted more closer to 7, but he got the 5 years at least. And he's got the money that he wants. No opt-outs in this contract. The thing for me is, first off, the Mets didn't offer him a contract, according to reports, and the Mets were unwilling to go past 3 years. David Stearns was very stern, if I could do my best Scott Boras puns. He was very stern about what he wanted with this New York Mets team and how he wants to build for the future, whether we think it's right, whether we think it's wrong. He has a specific vision that he wants for this team, whether we like it or not. And the fact that, I don't want to say that he doesn't care about the, I guess, Met fans and what they want, but honestly, he really shouldn't. And you would all agree with that. You don't do business going about what the fans want. Especially if you are putting together this team and you're getting paid to do it. Now, we all would want Pete Alonso back. We all would want Edwin Diaz back. It's just not meant to be. I think the Edwin Diaz deal stinks a little bit more because he goes to the world champion Dodgers, the back-to-back world champion Dodgers, who've just made themselves even better. It's going to be hard to get past them. Here you can deal with it because, you know, Baltimore's in the American League, and you won't see Pete Alonso as much. Now, he's his long-term play. He gets what he earned. He gets what he deserved following a solid 2025 campaign that brought his value back up because if you remember, he struggled in the 2024 season. If it wasn't for what happened in Milwaukee, he might not have been re-signed at all to be a part of the 2025 Mets. Obviously, the big home run against Devin Williams and a big postseason for him got him the 2-year contract on top of the Met fans berating Steve Cohen and David Stearns during Amazing Day. And I'm pretty sure they ain't going to have an amazing day this year. But Pete Alonso leaves the New York Mets last season, 272 batting average, 38 homers, 126 RBIs, and an 871 OPS. His career as a New York Met, 253 batting average, 265 home runs, 712 RBIs, and an 857 OPS. The franchise leader in home runs, which was owned by Darryl Strawberry for the past over 2 decades, you would say. It sucks to lose Pete Alonso and the production that he brings. But, at some point, I guess all of us as Met fans are going to have to get over the fact that he's gone and that Edwin Diaz is gone and that this team is going in a new direction. The hope and the fact that this is December 10th and we still have a little over 2 months to get to spring training is, I guess, good because this team can put together. I don't know. I don't know what to tell fans here. I'm not going to tell you how to fan. I'm not going to tell you if you like the deal, great. If you don't like the deal, I understand totally. I know Eddie's very depressed with this day. He thinks that the team is in a rebuild. It's a new era in New York Mets baseball. Talked about all through the last month of the season when this team was falling apart. The whole discussion was about how to break up this core. Well, the core is broken up. The 2 surviving members, Francisco Lindor, who's got a long contract, Juan Soto, who still has 14 years left on his deal. Everyone else, gone. It's Soto, it's Lindor, it's the young guys, and Jeff McNeil right now. And we'll get a little bit later into what the current status of this roster is. I don't want to go too crazy about it because I want to see the end result in spring training. But I see a lot of comments in the chat thinking this is a rebuild. Ethank, Lordy as well. Truman talking about a rebuild. Ethank thinks David Stearns is not only punting this season, but the next couple of seasons. And I've already seen a lot of comments. I see C Money in the chat here, and I've already seen a lot of comments about the Mets trading Francisco Lindor. I don't see it. I saw more of a trade for Brandon Nimmo, but a lot of people told me Brandon Nimmo could never be traded. And look what happened. Could Francisco Lindor at some point be traded? Anything is possible at this point in time, especially with David Stearns at the helm. Truman saying people think Stearns is a genius based on what? His track record with the Mets is wishy-washy, right? Up and down. I mean, the team had a miracle run to get to the 2024 playoffs, but a lot of the moves that he made during that trade deadline and during that year worked. But when you try to do it again, when you try to do that strategy again, instead of in 2024, as I said yesterday, sometimes lightning doesn't strike twice. And it didn't. And the moves that were made, the underlying moves, right? The Frankie Montas signing, the bringing back Sean Manaea, which I was okay with. But the Frankie Montas signing, like what? Bringing in Clay Holmes, that worked. But the Mets rotation suffered through injuries, and he was relied upon so much. Like, I don't know how to feel about Clay Holmes going into this season after his arm was taxed on purpose because we had nobody, right? Manaea was out most of the season. So was Frankie Montas. Kodai Senga was out. David Peterson fell off in the second half. And you're talking about Brandon Waddell and Austin Warren and all these taxi cab players. Stearns has a lot of work ahead of him. A lot. Now, I want to throw this question out to you guys in the chat. Who do you want to be the Mets' first baseman next season and why? Put it in the comments. Who would you like to see this Mets team come up with? Because now that Pete Alonso's gone, they are going to need to make moves here. They have no choice. Trades have to be made. There's a lot that this roster needs. It needs a whole lot. And Ethan, you're right here. They're trying to build a new core with Soto and Lindor because they're obviously not going to get rid of them, and they can't. We do have a good group of prospects. I agree with Lori there, but still, this roster is a shell of itself. If this roster went on opening day, which it's not, if it did, you're talking about two guys who provided not only some of the most offensive production, but also production in the clutch, which this team suffered and lacked for most of the season, except for one good month in August. And then you take away their closer, the best closer in baseball right now. And this is what you got. Now, Devin Williams obviously could have a bounce back season, but in all reality, it doesn't matter if the Mets had Edwin Diaz. It doesn't matter if the Mets have Devin Williams. It doesn't matter if they have Mariano Rivera or any other of the great historical closers in all of baseball. If this rotation doesn't give them 5 or 6 innings to then get to the bullpen, to then get to Edwin Diaz, it doesn't matter. You would think, as good as Edwin Diaz was, that he'd have more saves. But this team stunk, and we couldn't get to him for that. And we used him in some of the most odd situations. Matt Talks Rangers saying, I have no problem with Stearns breaking up the core, especially with them underachieving for multiple years. However, my concern is I just want to know what the plan is moving forward. And we know that Stearns and Cohen, they're very tight-lipped. They're not going to give away, they're not going to come out and blatantly say what the plan is for this team. We get little hints of it, right? Run prevention, number 1. Wants to play better defense, number 2. He obviously seems to have a plan for Carson Bench because he's talked about him a lot. He thinks he's going to be in this outfield at some point next season. It seems like this team is settled with having Brett Beatty be the third baseman. And during the winter meetings, he's going to find his ways, and we've seen him in the past, to bring in pitchers and bullpen guys at the prices that he wants. He's not going to give out a deal to any starter over 4 or 5 years. It doesn't seem like any free agent is going to get 4 or 5 years or longer. Outside of this Juan Soto deal, which, Steve Cohen had a lot to do with, and probably that wanted him to be the cornerstone of this franchise, David Stearns is not going to give out these high-priced deals to pitchers and, offensive production. And he may suffer because of that. At some point, he's going to have to give in, unless you're just going to trade everybody. Peter in the chat saying, I hate when they said we are surprised. The Mets were not surprised. They wanted this to happen. Yeah, that was a little weird to me too. Not only did they say they were surprised about Edwin Diaz, but about Pete Alonso as well. I mean, if you are giving these guys low ball offers and Pete's going to get this much money and years that he wants from Baltimore, well, he's going to Baltimore. if you are close to a deal in years and numbers for Edwin Diaz, and maybe you're a couple million away. What was it, $3 million they were behind? And you have an opportunity to go to the World Champions in LA. You're probably going to go to LA. So I was a little confused by that as well, Peter. I didn't like that was said either. I mean, it makes it look like the front office is a little bit incompetent. It does. And Peter mentioning about Jeff McNeil, I want to get into that next, and we'll get into some of the players maybe you want to play first base. You let me know. But Tim Healy, former beat writer for the New York Mets, he's been on the show before from Newsday. He's now a part of the Boston Globe and covers the Boston Red Sox. Said one first base solution that the Mets have floated around internally, and this I do remember, him talking about this last year when he was the Mets beat writer. Not specific players, at least one of them in-house, but a platoon of Jeff McNeil, who's now 33 years old. Obviously, he could play everywhere. And free agent Paul Goldschmidt, who's now 37 years old. That's an NO for me. I don't want to see that. I'm sorry. Last season, Jeff McNeil batted .243, had 12 home runs, 54 RBIs, and a 746 OPS. Goldschmidt, .274 batting average, 10 homers, 45 RBIs, and a 731 OPS. It's not just about plugging somebody at first base. You need the production offensively. That was the most important part of Pete Alonso's game. Close to 40 home runs, close to over 120 RBIs. And you don't have to replace that at first base, but you have to replace that somewhere in this lineup. And now we're talking about that production along with Brandon Nimmo's, 20, 25 home runs to 80 to 90 RBIs. I know you guys, I know Stearns is talking about run prevention, and that's all well and good. But if they're playing good defense and pitching well and losing games 1-0 because they can't score, that doesn't help either. So I don't like this idea at all about bringing in Paul Goldschmidt and Jeff McNeil, having them platoon at first base. Honestly, it's time to trade Jeff McNeil if you can. And I don't want Paul Goldschmidt. And I definitely don't want Paul Goldschmidt. One, because I don't want to hear Yankee fans talk about the leftovers. I'm tired of hearing that. After they lost Soto, it's been an absolute mess of them. Every time we get a Yankee, whether it was Luis Severino or Clay Holmes or Juan Soto, I don't want to hear it anymore. If you're going to give me someone from the Yankees, make it Cody Bellinger. At least he could play second base and do it pretty well because he's a good defensive player. Well, let's get into the chat again. Matt Talks Rangers saying, are we filling out the roster with prospects and retooling, or are we doing a mix with some veterans and some prospects as well? Also, if we are bringing in veterans, who are these veterans? I think we're getting a mixture of both. Obviously, they're retooling, right? Because if it was a full rebuild, we all know that Alonso, that Lindor would be gone as well. You can't trade Soto. That's not happening. But if you're going to fully break up this team, you're trading Lindor and Senga and David Peterson. And that's a full rebuild to me. This is obviously somewhat of a retooling. Is it going to be a great retooling? I don't know. I don't know how this is going to end up. And I don't want to go too crazy about it until we get to spring training. I think that is enough wiggle room to figure out where this team is at. And if this team fails, you have every right to be upset and complain about what David Stearns hasn't done to get this team to being a consistent postseason team, which they should be next year. I don't want to hear any excuses about it anymore. Ethan saying with the lockout coming, I won't be shocked if they are trying to stay under 300 million. I don't know what it is at this moment. I'd have to take a look. But the lockout is a big reason and has a lot to do with how these teams are going about this offseason. Right? We haven't seen the Yankees do much. I don't think they did anything at the winter meetings. The Mets definitely didn't do anything at the winter meetings except lose their players. So that does have a lot to do with it. Carlos Ramos saying, I don't think he's bringing the veterans we would prefer. And I'm pretty sure we're talking about like Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, those guys. He's not going to give out no long-term deal. Eddie in the chat saying, it's upsetting because the production is so hard to reproduce, especially from Pete. And the funniest part is that McNeil and Lindor are still here. Yeah. It's going to be hard to replace this production. That's why when I heard the Jeff McNeil, Paul Goldschmidt, that doesn't do much for me. And I'm pretty sure that it doesn't inspire the fan base. If they throw Goldschmidt and McNeil at first base. Okay, now who's going to be in left field and center field? Because you need offensive production from those two positions. Because we still don't know if Mark Vientos can recover from his sophomore slump. We don't know if Brett Baty is that consistent guy that he was in the second half. Can Francisco Alvarez find himself and be that guy that he was in 2023? It's a lot of ifs. Every year we go into so many ifs. I just don't understand. Matt saying, we also talked about Stearns' hesitancy to give out more than 3+ years to free agents. Will Stearns now move away from his comfort zone because he will be bringing in his guys? We want to know the plan. I don't know. This is the only players that he has given more or has tried to give more years out of, right? Juan Soto, who's 25, 26, and Yamamoto, another guy, 25, 26 at the time. If they're young enough, maybe if it's like a Paul Skeens, maybe he would do something like that. I'm not saying that he's available. I'm talking about a guy who's young, who's a star. Those are the guys that are going to get most years. But any player that's probably 30 or above years old is probably not getting a big deal from the New York Mets. HSP saying, it can't be a rebuild with Soto on the team. Soto didn't agree to that, I'm sure. I know a lot of people saying it's rebuilding. I'm going to stick with retooling until I see what the end product is here. Because if it was a full rebuild, these guys, Steve Cohen would have to come out. And he's done that, right? He's come out, talked to the fans, and talked about the disappointment. I remember getting the letter in 2023 when I had my season tickets. He did it at the end of this season. I think that he would, at the very least, come out and say something about that. I don't know about David Stearns, but I think he would. Carlos Ramos saying, I can't say this enough. The Dodgers didn't build a champion based on prospects only. They invested a lot of the farm in trading them for elite players. I don't see Stearns doing that, unfortunately. He may or he may not do that. But it took a while to get to that point. It was almost 8 where they got to that point. To where they were trading and building up that farm system. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Until I see the first trade, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it. C Money saying the risk aversion is not going to fly here. Yeah, it won't. This is David Stearns' year. This is his year to figure things out. And he better get it done. 24 friend CF says, if we trade the best shortstop in the game, I'm not a Met fan no more. I'm sure you and a lot of people feel the exact same way. But Lindor is an interesting character in the Mets fan base. A lot of people love him. A lot of people can't stand him. Eddie saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Lindor was traded, and at this point, so be it. I just wish they rebuilt this team at the deadline, actually gotten huge returns for Alonso, Diaz, maybe even Nimmo. That's, you think about that now. Maybe they could have gotten something, but they were trying to make it to the playoffs. They only lost. If they were out, like if this was 2023 all over again last season, most likely those guys would be traded, just like Scherzer, Verlander. But because it went all the way to the last game of the season, that's why they didn't trade these guys. And they were hoping that lightning in the bottle would strike twice, and it didn't. Ethang saying, if Stearns is capping it at 3-year deals, then 0 top free agents will come here. I totally agree. You want a top free agent? You got to give him years, and you got to spend a lot of money. You want to trade for a top player? You're going to have to give up a lot of prospects. That's how it works. That's how baseball works, folks. HSP podcast saying Stearns failed to call up the young pitchers in time last year. He waited trying to put a Band-Aid on the starting staff. I agree with to Nolan McLean. I think he wasn't called up in time. Brandon Sproat probably should have came up before Jonah Tong did. And maybe Jonah Tong shouldn't have been called up at all and had been left down in AAA to marinate into season a little bit. But yeah, I totally agree. And if you like wrestling, if you're a huge wrestling fan, please follow the HSP podcast. Good friends of mine. You can follow them on X. They're on all the social platforms, Instagram as well. They get comforts and on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to them if you're a huge wrestling fan. Peter's saying Soto's going to opt out. I wouldn't be shocked in 5 years if he does, but who's going to pay him all that money that he wants at age 30? I know the Mets won't come crawling back if he opts out, if David Stearns is still here. C-Money saying, if they do this Goldschmidt-McNeil platoon at first base, I'm going to be sick. I agree with that. Brandon J. Camacho saying Stearns will be using the prospects. Contreras or Arise, will be the first baseman. If not, then he's sticking with Vientos and McNeil as a platoon. Benj and Jet will be in the outfield. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened at all. And because you brought up Willson Contreras, that's going to get into our next topic. Shout out to Eddie Presti. Thank you so much for reposting the stream. Make sure repost, everybody. Repost. Let's get more people in here. We had a good turnout last night up until midnight. It's now midnight. Little Subway to Shea after dark going on here. But because Brandon mentioned Willson Contreras, that's going to be the next topic we're going to talk about, because John Denton, the MLB.com writer for the St. Louis Cardinals, said the Mets and the Cardinals have had discussions involving a trade for Willson Contreras. Contreras is expected to waive his no-trade clause to play in New York. Now, I don't know if that means that this trade is very close to happening or what. To find out that information so quickly after this rumor, very interesting. And here are some things to know about Contreras that I'm taking right from the SNY article. 34 years old. He has 2 guaranteed years left in his deal, and that's probably why the Mets like that. Only for a couple more years. His contract will probably be ending just before Marcus Semion's is over, since Semion's got 3 years left. It's worth $36.5 million. And there's also a club option for the 2028 season, which is worth $17.5 million. And I'm sure if David Stearns can get that sort of a deal to bring in Contreras to play first base, because he's played 120 games at first base, he can catch, and he's even dabbled a little bit in the outfield. Last season, 257 batting average, 20 home runs, 80 RBIs, and a 791 OPS. Let me know in the chat if you're interested in bringing in Willson Contreras, if he's a guy that you would be okay with playing first base. I know I would be, just not to see Jeff McNeil and Paul Goldschmidt. So let's see what happens with Willson Contreras, and if the Mets can make a deal. I would love to know who are the prospects involved. I hope it's not anything big and major, because the Cardinals are cleaning house. I think they want to trade Nolan Arenado as well, and Brendan Donovan. What the Mets can get out of the St. Louis Cardinals, if they can get anything out of them at all. Carlos Ramos saying David Stearns is the type of guy who takes a coupon to shop at a pawn shop. Oh, man. Ethang saying you can't tell the fans, as Cohen did, that there is still time to build a playoff caliber team. You would either need to get back to 300 mil plus payroll or trade like crazy. And I think earlier on today, Will Salmon of The Athletic, who's been on this show as well, mentioned the fact that the Mets would be more involved in the trade market than they are in free agency. They just don't like the deals, which tells me if you want Alex Bregman, nope. If you want Kyle Tucker, nope. The only free agent I think that they would probably go after, which would be weird now, getting rid of Pete, is adding into the lineup in Cody Bellinger. And as Sal Capel is saying that Gary Cohen suggested earlier tonight that the Mets should go after Tucker. They should, right? He would be a good offensive force in the lineup. But David Stearns ain't offering those deals out. That's the problem. David Stearns is not going to give this guy the money he wants. 24 Fried says we're the worst team in the division. Well, let's see. We got probably the Braves are going to be back after an injury-riddled season. The Phillies are still the cream of the crop of the NL East. The Marlins are going to be a lot better. I'm surprised that they want to trade Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, or Edwin Cabrera because they do have a legitimate shot with the way that the Mets are right now. Also, a team like the Nationals, they want to trade their players away. Who knows if the Braves can bounce back, but they have a shot to climb the rankings in this division, and we'll see if they can. Eddie Presti saying Devin Williams is the least of our problems. The offense and the starting pitchers have so many needs. Who cares about the closer? Yeah, that's what I said before. It doesn't matter who the closer is right now if you can't get to him in a save opportunity. So we'll see. C-Money saying Contreras would have been good several years ago. I know he's a little bit older, so that becomes a big problem. 24 Friends saying, I hope nobody shows up game one, and if they do, boo this garbage out of the stadium. I guess it all depends on what the end result is of this team. Like, let's say, for example, I'm not saying this is not going to happen, but if the Mets did get Kyle Tucker and Cody Bellinger to play the outfield, they traded for Peralta and McGill, and they brought in Contreras. I don't think the fans are going to boo that. I don't think the fans are not going to show up. It does suck that season ticket holders, and I know one friend that I talked about today, that as soon as the Alonso deal went down, they charged him for his season tickets to pay the rest of the money, which is pretty interesting. Brandon saying, Stearns will not be giving out crazy contracts to Belly or Tucker. His plan is to use the kids, Benj in center field, Jet in left field, Beatty in third base, maybe Vientos at first. If they don't try and get Contreras or Arise, I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. But man, to count on all these kids, we already tried to do that with the baby Mets, as they were called. I don't know if I could go in a season like that. Maybe Benj, maybe one of them, maybe Benj. Beatty's fine because he played well, and we'll see if Vientos can bounce back. But is Jet Williams, you think he's ready? I mean, I didn't hear him get talked about as much. Benj has been the talk of the town recently. Shout out to Radiant, who's working out and watching the show at the same time. Appreciate you, man. Getting all those lifts in. Eddie Presti, I just wish they were more transparent about breaking up this core, but why not do this 2 years ago or even at the trade deadline? This is, I think, what happened. I don't think David Stearns expected this team to make the playoffs in 2024. And I think that curtailed what he visioned for this team, which was probably letting Pete Alonso go and trying to tinker around and move a lot of these guys. and eventually getting to Edwin Diaz leaving, Brandon Nimmo being traded. But what happened? Pete Alonso hit a home run in the playoffs, and the Mets were off and running. So what was supposed to happen? David Stearns was supposed to pivot and build off of that and try to make a team that could beat the Dodgers. Add to the bullpen, add to the rotation, which he didn't do a great job at. And now we are here now at this moment in time. Like, makes you think, did David Stearns want Pete Alonso to hit that home run in the playoffs? Because maybe he would have just gotten rid of him if he didn't. 24 Friends saying Tatis is the only right move. I would love to see Fernando Tatis on this team. I don't know what you have to give up to get him, but he would be great for this outfield, and I would love it. Ethang saying it's like they aren't even trying. I mean, at least right now it feels that way. I don't know. I know a lot of Mets fans are frustrated and don't want to be patient, and I'm not going to tell you to be patient. This sucks. Losing Diaz and losing Alonso sucks, and losing Brandon Nimmo sucks. They weren't the problems last season. But the fact that they wanted to break up this core, the fact that these weren't David Stearns guys, and the fact that this team hasn't won in the tenure of these players being here made this move impactful, I guess, to Stearns. Ricky, a diehard sports fan, saying Mets are in a big trouble. I hate to say this, but the Mets aren't going to win a World Series for a good long while. I mean, they haven't won one in 40 years now we're going on. And that's why, when this stuff happened today, and Keith, who did a stream on X, if you know, from Shane's Sons, he's talking about being numb to all this, and that's where I'm at. Like, I used to get so affected and so hurt when players would leave, right? Jose Reyes, I think, was one of the biggest examples. Jose Reyes and Jacob deGrom. I was so upset when Jose Reyes left. And even Jacob deGrom was probably like the nail in the coffin for me holding out hope that the Mets would keep their guys. Now, when we lose these players, it's just, I'm upset in the moment, and then it's time to move on because this is the business of baseball now. And obviously we haven't seen a championship in now 40 years and counting. And you just I can't get so upset with this team. I can't let this team, affect my life, and you shouldn't either. I mean, it's a good recreation, it's good baseball, but I can't get 100% on this team and live and die and breathe on every single thing that they do, because we are going to be frustrated 9 out of 10 times with what this team does. Radiant saying, if I'm keeping a butt, they kind of do look pretty incompetent unless it's a setup for something big down the line, and they're keeping it close to their chest, which is possible that they could be doing. We just don't know what it is that they want to do here because we haven't seen any moves. This winter meeting stunk. It just stunk. Sal Capella saying trade for Yandy Diaz. I thought that's something that they were going to do last year when the talks of Pete Alonso possibly leaving was going to happen, but they didn't end up doing that. Maybe we see that this year. Who knows? I wouldn't be opposed to it. The fact that Jeff McNeil is a part of the plan is a huge problem. I don't know if he's a part of the plan, Carlos. I might have to disagree here. I don't think he's a part of the plan. I think is that nobody wants him. As much as they say that there's been interest in Jeff McNeil. Nobody wants Jeff McNeil in their clubhouse, it feels like. And we're not going to get a lot for Jeff McNeil if we trade him. Are you okay with I guess if you're okay with just releasing him, that's something, but he'd have to be really, really bad like how Robinson Cano was bad and they released him. Ricky saying the American League East is going to be an all-out war next year. It's going to be madness in that division. I love it. I'm going to pay close attention to what's going on there. You got Toronto trying to make it back to the World Series again, with adding Dylan Say still need a closer. You got Baltimore and their offensive lineup. That's going to be nice to see out there. We always know that the Devil Rays are, hiding in the water, getting ready to pounce at some point. And even Boston. Boston's a better team than they were last year. So that division is going to be fun. Very interesting. Eddie says he has a good solution. Marcell, man, I can't with Marcell Ozuna. I can't stand him. But you could flip him at the deadline. I mean, if it's a 1-year deal, I just don't like Marcell Ozuna. I feel like we could get something else. That's just me. I'm not a big fan. I mean, if all this talk about on there, this guy's definitely not going to be welcomed with open arms. Eddie also thinks that Contreras would be an upgrade at catcher. Maybe he splits time. Maybe he'll get 20 games, and then the rest goes to Torrens and Alvarez, and then you could have Alvarez DH as well, so he doesn't have to get hit in the hand all the time. Ricky saying Phillies are going to win the NL East. That's at least on paper, what it looks like right now. HSP saying, I think they're also doing a reset due to a lockout because, let's be honest, they aren't playing baseball for a long time. Yeah, this lockout that's going to happen next year is going to probably knock out baseball for an entire season. Mike Lewis saying they were Cohen projects. Now, is that in regards to, what is that in regards to? Are you talking about the casino, or are you talking about a specific player? I think I need more specifics on that. Eddie Pressey saying Luis Ariz and Rhys Hoskins first base platoon. I was been talking about Rhys Hoskins because now I think I did it in your chat, in the chat with you and Hector, that I could see Rhys Hoskins being a Met because of the whole Milwaukee Stearns thing, and having him and Jeff McNeil on the same team would be hilarious. Yeah, Daniel Caps watch because he was on the Brewers. We will replace Alonso with Rhys Hoskins. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. It'd be pretty funny. I mean, there's been enough funny things to happen around this team. Why not some more? Radiant saying the reason why the Mets have so many ifs is because, like Stearns, it consists of the number 3. 3 years, 3-year deals, a lot of threes in the rotation. HSP saying they might actually do another 1-year deal with Winker just to have an extra outfielder. Shake my head if that happens. Yeah, I love Winker, but I think that ship has sailed, and they probably should not bring back Jesse Winker, especially now that he has the back injury. I wouldn't want to do that. G Money Stacks, what's up, my friend? Thank you for being a part of the show. Saying 2 double whammies here that left the Mets in Diaz and now Alonso. It really sucks. Who's going to play left first and be the new closer? Well, right now, Devin Williams is your closer. First base and left field to be determined, right? I mean, one of those could go to Jeff McNeil. That's if they do nothing. Mark Vientos will probably play first base. So, not looking good on that front, but still got time. Jim Rockford saying, does baseball need a salary cap? No, it needs a salary floor, in my opinion. Get these little market teams to start spending. I have no problem with the Dodgers are doing, what the Mets are doing, what the Yankees are doing. Get the teams like the Pirates, who actually offered Kyle Schwarber a 4-year deal, which I think it was like $100 million. Get those guys spending. Get the Cincinnati Reds spending. Get him to do it. Peter saying Contreras could be a good mentor to Alvy. I agree with that. C Money saying they're going to get rid of deferrals, not counting for the current years. They're going to get rid of the deferrals, not counting for the current years. I mean, I don't think P. Alonso's deal has deferrals in it. I don't think it has deferrals or opt-outs in it. Mike Lewis saying, if McNeil is still on the team by opening day, that changing the core BS is what it is, BS. I agree with this. I think that McNeil should be gone as part of this whole cleansing of the core, as you would say. I think he has to go. If the Dodgers get Scooble, should the league just quit? Yeah. That I only heard some rumors about that, and I would not be shocked if they're able to pull that off. But who are they trading? I think I heard, what was it, Tyler Glass now is part of a deal for Scooble. But if they have the power to do it and there's no penalties or nothing, just do it and continue to dominate baseball for the next decade. Daniel Cap saying we still need starting pitching. We definitely need starting pitching, and we definitely need a front end starter. G-Money Stack saying, why is Starling Marte trying to come back to the Mets when he's between 36 to 37? Because they want him on the bench, and they want him to soothe Juan Soto, who thinks the world of Starling Marte as he's the captain of the team. So maybe they'll throw him on the bench and he can DH and play out left field every so often. He had a solid season off the bench last year, but I don't want to bring him back. C-Money saying he'd rather see Okamoto. That's an option that the Mets could do. He's a good defensive first baseman, but there's talks about him not providing that offensive spark that the Mets may need. Going through some more of the chat. Eddie likes the Contreras move, whatever the cost is. Oh, what's the cost? I don't know. Because let's say he's 34 years old. He's still got a 2-year deal. I wonder if the Mets are going to try to do some kind of swap like they did with the Nimmo and Simeon deal. That seems to be what the talk is that the Mets are looking for these kind of 1-for-1 deals like they did. So I maybe it's, would they trade a pitcher for Contreras, or I don't know what position. I mean, Jeff McNeil for Contreras is not going to get it done. All right. Something else that I want to get into as we continue on with the show is, Steve Cohen making his response to what happened today. And he talked with one John Heyman via text on the New York Post saying, I totally understand the fans' reaction. There is lots of offseason left to put a playoff team on the field. Gonna have to do a lot, right? A lot needs to be done. Too much needs to be done, right? First base, left field, center field. So we need at least 2 bats in the lineup that are going to produce. Still need more relief pitching. Never have enough of that. And need a front-end starter. I mean, we talk about 5 things that needs to get done. It's a lot of work to do in this offseason, which is 2 months away from spring training. So do you still believe, let me know in the chat, do you still believe in Steve Cohen? Do you still believe in David Stearns in the front office, even after all this stuff that has gone down? A lot of people do, a lot of people don't. But I want to know what you think in the chat. Because every move that is made from here on out is going to be scrutinized. Every mistake that David Stearns makes will be analyzed and talked about ad nauseum. And as it's currently standing, if you look at this lineup, Francisco Alvarez, a catcher. First base, what was it? Jeff McNeil, Mark Vientos. Second base, Simeon. Third base, Lindor. Shortstop, Lindor. Third base, Beatty. Then you have maybe Carson Benj in left field. Tyrone Taylor in center. Juan Soto in right. That's a rough lineup right now. Rough lineup. I don't like it. I just don't like it at all. This team needs to be better, and they need to get better quickly. All right, going into some more of this chat here. I'm trying to catch up with all you guys because there's so much conversation that is happening. Ethank's saying the only saving grace for Tucker is the fact that his market isn't what he thought it would be. I still think he gets a good deal. I mean, Pete got a deal somewhat what he wanted. Kyle Schwarber definitely got the deal that he wanted, and he's a DH. So Kyle Tucker will probably get in a range that's out of the Mets' comfort zone. Juan B in the chat saying, I wouldn't mind Teoscar Hernandez. Dodgers are trading as they want Tucker. I think Teoscar Hernandez had a terrible year last year. Gonna have to look that up. I want to know how Teoscar Hernandez did. And if they're trading him, it's for a reason. I know they want not too bad, 247, 25 homers, and 89 RBIs. That's pretty good. I'd take that. Juan B. HSP saying they have to offer line of protection to Soto in his absolute prime. It would be an absolute sin if they didn't add a big bat. Who is the big bat that they can add that you think, whether via free agency or trade, that can help protect him now that Pete Alonso's gone? That's what I want to know. Eddie's saying it's just so strange that Stearns wants to trade prospects for Contreras when you could have just resigned Pete. That's the big problem, right? Now we're going to have to trade prospects when we could have had these guys via free agency. Peter asking, can Ronnie play first base? I'm pretty sure they're going to try him out there. Him, Vientos, McNeil. I wouldn't be shocked if Beatty gets some time at first base as well. It's going to happen. Ricky saying Mets are in big danger for missing the playoffs next year. It will happen. I mean, they weren't a playoff team last year with all those guys on the roster. Now with them gone, it's even worse. So they got to get themselves going. HSP saying, imagine Mendoza right now. He's got to win this year with no Alonso and no Diaz. The only thing is he didn't win with them as well. That could be, I guess, the counter to that. Eddie asking what I would do at first base and left field. I think it all depends on how good they think Carson Bench is. I mean, if David Stearns is highly talking about him, then maybe he's the guy to go in the outfield. Unless they get Cody Bellinger. Because they're not getting Kyle Tucker. Can they get Cody Bellinger for a specific type of years? I don't know. This is tough, man, because I just don't know where they're going. Like, I don't know what this team wants and it's what this team is looking for. Because it seems like the kids are going to play, as was mentioned earlier by Brandon. First base, I wouldn't mind Contreras at first base. Here are some of the free agent first basemen that are left, and you tell me if any of these guys you like. Ryan O'Hearn, who's 32 years old, Anna. And these are ordered by wins above replacement. So Ryan O'Hearn right now has the most at 4.6. You got Carlos Santana, but he's 40 years old. Nathaniel Lowe, 30. Luis Ariz, you mentioned, he's 29 years old. Paul Goldschmidt, 38. Rhys Hoskins, 33. You got Justin Turner. No, thank you. He's 41. That ship has sailed. Donovan Solano. No, thank you. Dominic Smith, no. Josh Bell, Ty France, Lamont Wade Jr., Rowdy Tellez. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Rhys Hoskins and Rowdy Tellez. I think I mentioned that in your chat. Wilmer Flores. Does anyone want a reunion with Wilmer Flores? He's 34, but he had a terrible WAR last season. And then there's Akamoto. Maybe Akamoto. You give him a chance and see what he's got. Ray saying that David Stearns has two emotions. When Pete hit the home run versus Milwaukee, he jumped up in the air and started to scream yes as a Mets fan. And then as the GM, he said no. I wouldn't be shocked if that's true. That's why I said that earlier. Like, not that he was upset that Pete hit the home run, but kind of probably messed up his plans of what he wanted to do to this team. Non-Genarian's asking, do you trust Stearns? I think that I'm going to trust in his vision for this year. Now that this is all on him, right? He's gotten all the players out that he doesn't want. He's gotten all the players out that weren't his guys. And now he gets to fully put his vision together. And it better work. Because if it doesn't, I don't think I can trust him. And I know a lot of fans, he's got to earn their trust back with what he can do this offseason. There's a lot that has to be done, as we mentioned. So right now, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because I want to see this new vision, this new Mets, and what they're going to put together. But we will see. We will see. Radiant saying, I didn't want DeGrom back. I didn't want to pay for 3 starts a season. No offense to him. I get it. I totally get it. I just thought he was never going to leave, and he wanted to be a Met forever, and that just wasn't the case. He definitely wanted to leave. Shout out to Maureen in the chat. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Armand in the chat. Thank you for being here. Nolan, LGM is saying, I'm in the minority here, but I'm ecstatic that this rotten core is finally breaking up. I wish they could unload Lindor's contract too, build around Soto and the young arms. Hey, a lot of people want Lindor to be traded. Could that be something that happens within the next couple of years? I mean, it's possible. I think it's 50-50. I don't think you're in the minority, Nolan. I think it's 50-50 that people are ecstatic about and believe in David Stearns' vision and what he's going to do, and there's a lot of people that don't. And, all are okay to have opinions on. See money just like me, can't root for Ozuna. I agree. Maureen saying, I'm debating on whether to pay for my MLB package this year. Not sure it'll be worth it. I only buy the SNY package. I don't buy the full. Are you buying the full MLB package? Because I'm just doing the Mets SNY package. And let's see if they raise the prices on that. I'd be interested to see. Edge in the chat. What's going on, my friend? So Mets aren't blocking kids anymore. If you don't understand, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, it's going to be the kids are going to be the talk of the town. In the rotation, maybe one in the bullpen like Dylan Ross, and then in the lineup. And I know Edge follows the minor leagues to the T, so he knows a lot about what those guys got going on. It says if the Mets are trading Contreras, it will be for David Peterson and paying down on a contract. I thought the same thing. Because there was the whole talk about David Peterson getting traded yesterday and trying to find that 1-for-1 deal. I think that this is probably the most logical trade that is probably going to happen is Contreras for David Peterson, just like the way they did the Nimmo for Simeon deal. Armand saying, please, Stearns and Santa, get McNeil off this team. If that's one thing that we can all agree on and enjoy, it's for them to get Jeff McNeil off this team. Let's see what else we got here. I feel like I'm way behind since we were talking about the salary floor. Let's go back to that. See money saying my thing on deferrals was about Ohtani. All that deferred money doesn't count now, so they can do all this. Yeah. And you know what? If the team sells, if the ownership sells, they might not have to take that bill either. It might be put on the new owners. G Money Stack saying a salary floor. What would it do also? What are the pros and cons behind the salary cap? This idea was by the Deadly Snake of Rob Manfred. Well, a salary cap will definitely limit what the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, what they could spend. And I don't know how the deferrals are impacted by that. If you get a salary cap here, these teams are going to have to spend a certain amount of money, whether it's, if they cap this at the team has to spend $200 million. Then the Pirates are going to have to spend money and put it out there. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Maureen saying this team is in big trouble this year. It feels like they're punting the season. I'm going to hold, as you know, I'm going to hold my thoughts on that until I see what this roster looks like in the spring. Eddie saying Senga, McNeil for Contreras. Probably could throw. Can you throw Senga and McNeil? Possibly. I'm thinking more of the line of what Edge was saying about Peterson being a part of that. C Money saying, I will not believe until results are seen later in 2026. I could feel good at least if they fix the roster. That's the thing too, right? Like, what if they got off to a good start this season, like they did last year, and then they completely fell apart? Got to get to a point where that stops happening. When I asked earlier about if you believe in Cohen and if you believe in the front office, Juan B says he believes in Cohen, but Stearns doesn't believe it. Peter saying, I think Cohen got his casino and got Juan Soto, which is, he did get his casino and he did bring in Juan Soto, so you are correct. Radiant asking, would you guys be happy with Willson Contreras at first, Akamoto at third, Benj in left field, Tatis in center field, and Imai as the top starting pitcher to get with King as well? That seems like a solid offseason to me. I know it's completely different from what this team looked like last year, but if you get Fernando Tatis, he's a star in his own right. C Money lost belief and trust after the past seasons. Totally fair. Eddie doesn't believe in Stearns or Cohen. I just think that they've been shady and non-transparent. Yeah. At least Stearns feels that way, for sure. Radiant would like to see Suarez as the closer of the Mets. I would like to see him on this roster as well. I talked about he's still available, and even the Dodgers are still interested in him. Maureen is already out. She says, I don't believe this team is going to do anything this year. Hold out a little more hope. Just a little bit. Just until the spring. I'll be here for you, Maureen. I'm going to have to check this, G-Money, because I have not heard anything about Kyle Tucker going to the Yankees. I don't know where that came from, but I'm going to check right now. There is no saying that Kyle Tucker has signed a deal with the New York Yankees. Am I missing something? Did that just recently happen? Because I don't see it here. I don't know where you got that from. But I don't think he's signed anywhere yet. Eddie Presti saying Teoscar for DH. I would do that for sure. Oh, he seemed to be a bad outfielder, as Armand and Edge are saying. At DH, I wouldn't mind, though. Eddie asking, crazy idea, a Soto at first base. He has been taking grounders at first base, right? Every game he was practicing. So at some point, maybe he does become the first baseman. Armand saying that he should sign Adolis Garcia for left field on a 1-year deal. He can bridge and platoon for Benj. How is he defensively? I don't know too much about Adolis Garcia. And he would love to see O'Hearn on the Mets. As I mentioned, O'Hearn was the third best when it came to wins above replacement, behind Josh Naylor and Pete Alonso. And not by 1 point. It's pretty good. You're right, Edge. Murakami should be on that first baseman list, but he's not. This is from MLB's website too. I think they put him in at third base. Yeah, they put him in at third base, which is interesting. Definitely interesting to see. All right. catching up on some more of these comments. I feel like I am way back with all of you guys. All right, there we go. I agree with Armand. Stearns gets to make this roster his way, and it's all on him. Vizzy saying a big trade is coming. He's got faith. What do you think the trade is, Vizzy? You think it's a starting pitcher? Do you think it's the Contreras? Is that Contreras? Do you consider the Contreras trade a big trade? I don't know. Could it be for a frontline starter? Vizzy saying, why give Soto almost $800 million to break it up? Something is definitely coming, and could be. Radiant is oddly content with the players being sold or let go. Ricky saying, Met fans aren't going to bother going to the games next year with Pete Alonso and Diaz gone. There are going to be a lot of empty seats during the Mets games next year. If they win, fans will be in the stands. If they lose, fans won't be in the stands. It's nothing new that we haven't seen, with the franchise. I mean, when the team was winning in 2024 with those players, there was still empty seats. So it's not like they're going to abandon ship and not be there. I mean, the fans are going to be there if the team wins. And if they lose, it'll be empty house. I mean, like with any other team. 24 friends saying, what about a trade nobody is talking about? Jose Ramirez. I mean, I would love it, but probably the reason why nobody's talking about it because I don't know if it's realistic. Like, is he on the trade block? I don't know if he's on the trade block. All right, I want to get into one more quick topic before we wrap up this show here. And I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but John Heyman, the New York Post, mentioning that the Mets are showing interest in Tyler Rogers. I've said it yesterday. I've said it multiple times. The Mets should bring him back. I love that he has that submarine delivery and he brings a different arm angle to this team. I think that is a huge and important part of building this bullpen is to have him in there along with AJ Minter and Brooks Raley, as well as Devin Williams. And if you want to throw Robert Suarez in there, build a good bullpen at the very least. Last season, he had a 2.30 ERA with the New York Mets after the trade deadline. And overall, with San Francisco and the Mets, a 1.80 ERA. He's a good pitcher, man. Bring him back. Only 34 years old, so probably could do a shorter deal, which Stearns loves. So we'll see if they can bring him back into the fold to help out this bullpen. Now, trying to catch up on the comments as it took me all the way back. There's just so many comments. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. We got 336 people in the room at 12:46 in the morning. Shout out to all you. Once this show's over, I'll post this on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for anyone who wants to listen. So I appreciate everyone for being here. Rocky Rivera saying, what do the Mets need to do other than money to convince players to come to Queens? What secret sauce are we missing compared to the Dodgers? Again, we have more money. Well, when you're comparing them to the Dodgers have championships. The Dodgers have consistency winning, which makes their clubhouse great, apparently. And everyone wants to play there. And the team's international because they can get Japanese players and they can get players from every parts of this earth that will want to come to play in LA. Yeah, Cohen has the money, but we're at a standstill of the fact that David Stearns doesn't want to give years here. He doesn't want to give years. He doesn't want to give out big contracts. So that money from Cohen, what are we going to use it for? if he doesn't want to give out the good deals. It's tough. That's why so many people are frustrated with David Stearns. Armand saying Murakami played third base overseas, but teams believe he is a first baseman. Here in the MLB, his defense was not good at third base. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why they put him there then. That's MLB.com put him there. So, I mean, he's 26 years old. So he is young and spry, and you got Okamoto, who's 30 years old. Obviously, Murakami is more of the offensive guy. Okamoto is the more defensive guy. We'll see. Mets and Astros should do David Peterson for Brian Abreu. Mets need bullpen help, and Astros need a starter. Both will be free agents after this season. That wouldn't be so bad. But then the Mets really have to sign a starter or something, or they're going to have to trade for a starter because David Peterson was their most consistent starter for most of the season, getting deep into games. Then you take that away, and then Brian Abreu is going to be pitching a lot. I know they signed Carl Edward Jr. as well, and now they're going to convert him to being a starter. So David Stearns, fun. All right, guys, I can't thank you enough for being a part of this show, for being a part of the Subway to Shea podcast tonight. I'll tell you this, that what went down over the last 48 hours, but we move on. It's always about the name in the front of the jersey more than the name in the back. But David Stearns got to get to work. And you got to hope that he turns this around. Okay? I'll take a few more comments here. 24 Friends saying Javier Baez reunion with Scooble. I mean, if that gets us Scooble, I mean, I would take it. I know Maureen says she don't wants no part of Baez, but if it meant bringing Scooble here and giving up less prospects or something like that, I would probably do it. Definitely. Shout out C Money. Appreciate you. Shout out Matt Talks Rangers. Shout out everybody in the chat for being a... We will be back Sunday morning at 10 a.m. unless another big breaking news happens. If the Mets sign somebody, because I guess all of the guys that their free agents are now signing elsewhere. Now it's time to focus on who the Mets are going to bring in. And whether it's via trade, maybe we get Willson Contreras at some point this week. Maybe they sign Tyler Rogers or Robert Suarez. But the Mets definitely have a lot of work to do. First base, left field, center field. Figure out ways to get bats in this lineup. Front end starting pitching, relief pitching. Get to work, David Stearns. Get to work. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being part of the show. We'll be back, like I said, on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. talking all the latest stuff going down with these New York Mets. If you like the video and like my content, please press that like button and please press that subscribe button. Follow Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me on X at AntRivera86. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you prefer to listen to the show. But if you want to be a part of the chat and the conversation, you are doing that right here on YouTube. And you can watch on X as well, but I prefer you guys chatting it up on the YouTube. It's a little bit easier to be a part of the chat on YouTube. And you can always support Subway to Shea with Super Chat, Super Stickers, and Super Thanks, which is also available on YouTube. Until Sunday, this has been Anthony Rivera. You've been watching the Subway to Shea podcast. Once I post it, you'll be listening. Always remember, let's go Mets.